She's a country girl in a city world.
Thought I'd stop here and show you guys. We're in a place called Chewton, which is really Castlemaine, but it's Chewton. It's like a suburb of Castlemaine now, but that's because of the growth. But beautiful little buildings, old buildings in Chewton. And as you can see here, the world's richest shallow alluvial goldfield ever. So I don't really understand gold mining all that well, but I think alluvial means you can just pick it up off the ground, or it's very shallow, you don't have to dig shafts. But we will see, there's all that valley there, and there is a creek running through it, which is probably Forest Creek, but there's also some diggings on the right which it says is Forest Creek diggings. But I imagine all along that valley, if you were back here in the 1850s, and I think that's when the gold rush was, you would have just seen tents and people working like ants from all around the world. Italians, Americans, English, Welsh, Irish. It would have been absolutely packed with people, industrious, because I guess, well, we'll see a better view, but there's a ridge along there and there's valleys all leading down into that creek. So I reckon the gold was probably washing down from those hills into the creeks. But anyway, I'll have a look. I'll show you a bit of Chewton. I think perhaps I should do a series or an episode on the historic buildings of Chewton, because there's some fantastic old buildings here. There's also the old water wheel, which was used in the gold dredging or mining. Building there, that's beautiful. That's a real old miner's cottage. I've never actually walked down to the creek. Not sure if there is a walking track or something. I'm going slow. I did see a walking track sign. Not that I'm equipped for too much walking. I've got thongs on again. Wouldn't believe that I never wore thongs as a kid, would you? Or even as a young person. I just didn't like the feeling of thongs between my toes, and now I live in them. Yeah, there's sort of a track. Oops. There's another old miner's cottage there. I'm going to pull over. There's a guy behind me. See if we can get rid of him. You can see all that valley there. That's all where they've gone looking for gold. So a lot of the gold, of course, went back to Melbourne, which made Melbourne an extremely wealthy city in its day. They say that outside of London it was the wealthiest city in the empire. Melbourne. Fantastic old church there. See that? That's the Jubilee Primitive Methodist Church, AD 1861. Looks like a private residence now. Ooh. The Chewton Town Hall. Chewton Town Hall, 1860. The old post office. Look at this place. Miner's cottage. Oops. Well, over here there's a that's a fantastic looking hotel, you know, sitting under the vines in the shade. They've got a beer garden there. And this is Mo's Antique Shop. Went in there about a couple of months ago. Don't really know why they're closed. You'd think it would be prime. Today's a Sunday, but Mo's up to something, I guess. Alright. I wasn't really able to get down to the track along the valley, but there's nothing to see. There's just a track to walk along. And yeah, I think I'll skip that. The creek sort of winds to the left, which we're going to follow the road to where the creek bends to. There's another beautiful old church. So I love Chewton. There's a blue heeler. Bought some garden gnomes from here one time. There was a guy who used to have a garage sale every time we came past. He wouldn't budge on the price. I paid top dollar for these garden gnomes, but they were proper heavy duty concrete garden gnomes. There's another obelisk. I think we should visit here. So we're going to have a look at this obelisk. Looks like a butte, doesn't it? Oh, I'm seeing gold mentioned, so that's what it's about. Let's go and have a look. And then I'm going to show you guys where they did the monster mash. First saw this sign for a monster meeting. I thought it was Dracula Frankenstein get together, but I'll tell you about it when we get round the corner. But Robert Ottery and party found their first gold near this spot after tramping barefoot from Williamstown. 1852. I said 1850, that's pretty good. Once again, we can't really see the valley. Look at the stringy bark, that's what they call stringy bark. But yeah, the valley runs through there, and all the gold, I reckon, washed down through the valleys into this Forest Creek. So he walked barefoot from Williamstown. Williamstown is right down on the bay. It's where the ships arrived. If you go back and look at one of my videos, I was at Williamstown. That's where we sailed from Williamstown across to Durban. So, have to be 160 kilometres at least, walking barefoot, eh? So now we'll go around to the site of the monster meat, and I'll tell you guys a bit about what I know about it. I'm no expert, but I know a bit. They did the mash. They did the monster mash. Golden Point Road, and a historic site. So this is all a national park, the Castlemaine Diggings National Heritage Park. And if you were to climb up the hills on the right as well, there's a national park heritage digging site right up on top of the hills. You'd have to be, you know, mountain goatish to get up there, but there must be some stuff perhaps left over. I don't know why these people are here. Maybe they're here to celebrate the monster meat. They did a meat. They did the monster meat. It was a smash. Right. They've got the flag up for the meet. The Forest Creek Monster Meeting was probably the largest gathering of certainly white people in Australia up to that time. An estimated 15,000 people gathered at the Forest Creek Monster Meeting, which was an organised protest at Forest Creek against the increase in miners' licence fees planned by the colonial government of Victoria. Although it was one of several similar protests held around the colony, It's notable as the largest known mass rally held during the Australian gold rush. In December 1851, the government announced they intended to triple the licence fee from £1 to £3 a month from the 1st of January 1852. And on the 15th of December 1851, between 14,000 and 20,000 miners gathered for the first mass meeting of diggers, as the miners were known, at Forest Creek. The notices put about the diggings by a person who called himself a digger in advance of the meeting advertised it as a monster meeting. The miners' flag, also known as the Standard of Australian Reform, flew at this meeting for the first time. The exact design of this flag is unknown. The meeting took place at the site of a shepherd's hut, an outstation of William Campbell's sheep run, Strathlodden, which was built around 5 kilometres south of Major Thomas Mitchell's line of road at the junction of Wattle and Forest Creeks in the 1840s. It was claimed at the time maybe these people are from a historic society or something, but you can see here 1851. Alright, they're looking at the billboard. We'll go and look over here. So on this flat gathered these miners back in the 1851, and it was a protest about mining licenses. The government, of course, once people started getting wealthy off the gold, wanted a slice of it. They introduced a very harsh miners licensing system, whether you found gold or not. And the police that imposed the rules regarding your licenses could, a bit like the pass laws in South Africa, they could check you anytime you had to carry your license around with you, and they were quite brutal in how they treated people. But anyway, there are creeks running along there now, and then it curves around. You can see those hills. Real Australian, this bit. Gum trees. I might talk to you a bit about the Eureka Stockade, because this is kind of linked to the Eureka Stockade. So the great meeting of gold diggers, that's what it looked like. A crowd of 14,000 protested against the outrageous licensing system. A massive protest erupted here against the government's unjust and exorbitant tax on gold diggers. Earlier at Buninyong, then Ballarat, later Bendigo, the issue of basic rights led to the Eureka Rebellion of 1854. Here's a quote, Mr. Booley. There are few people who properly understand what a government is or what it ought to be. It should be the chosen servants of a free people. And these plaques were put here in 2005. I think that's a bit Australian, so we'll have a look at that. Cooper's the original pale ale. It's a good beer, but I don't drink it anymore. Oops. Now that flag, I'm not sure the significance, but what they do here once a year is remember the meeting here, the monster meeting, and people march down Chewton with drums and flags. As I said, there were a lot of nationalities involved in mining. When we had the Chinese, of course, although the Chinese probably didn't get too involved in these sorts of things because they weren't welcome. Surprise, surprise, Australians were exceptionally racist in those days. So the Chinese, and what a journey they made. They called them celestials. They would get on ships. They'd leave their families in China to make money to send back to them. A bit like what happens now. And Victoria got sick of the Chinese coming in, so they barred them from disembarking. But they didn't stop them. So they started walking their way from South Australia across to the goldfields. And what they discovered, because they're fairly industrious people, was that if they couldn't find gold, there were other ways to make a living on the goldfields. And of course we know that they're fantastic cooks. So the Chinese introduced, fresh vegetables to the mines, to the diggings. They introduced, a different way of dress, the language. So there was a great contribution, which, we didn't appreciate at all at the time. They were particularly cruel to the Chinese people. But, there's lots to see around here. That's the wheel I mentioned.
And the miners were always, looking for wood to.
So you could walk along here.
And so they just cut down every single tree they could find.
Crazy. We wouldn't be here without them, I guess.
So here's a couple of things. Been there before. That's where we are there now. Oh, we went past there, so we're there. So, there is that flag there, which is sort of, it's got scales, it's got a pick and a shovel. But the flag I'm thinking, which was erected in Ballarat, was the Southern Cross, which is a blue background with a white four-pointed star to signify the Southern Cross. And that Southern Cross flag was erected by the miners at Eureka, and it's now been, for many years, it's been used by the unions, by, I don't know, sort of bikers a bit, anyone who's kind of a bit belligerent. They tend to use the Southern Cross. It was made by some ladies, hand stitched, and I believe it might still be in one of the museums in Ballarat. So that's a quick look at the monster meeting, and I'll try and read out a bit for you so you can find out a bit more about it if you're interested. I don't know who these people are or why they're here, but there must be some historical group. Oh, they're with a tour guide. He might be telling them about it. I've told you what I know, which is a little bit, but not everything. Alright, we'll go home now. Right. Chopping board, knife. Go and give the pensioners their daily bread. So I mentioned Bilbo a week or two back and his lack of teeth. So I've started supplementing his food with, I've been experimenting with some mixed grain and some small pellets. He might be here, he should be here. Otherwise I'll call him over. But it's stuff that he doesn't have to chew, really. You think he'd wolf down everything, but he doesn't. He likes there's a couple of things he really likes, and there's other stuff that he's not that keen on. Get there. And then of course a couple of the mothers have been coming in with him, which makes sense because I think actually the mothers would be older than he is. So I think the mothers have lost their teeth as well. We're dealing with old age pensioners here. I always remember we use these water troughs now, these water tubs, because I've only got 10 of them. I don't really need the big sheep trough anymore. just goes full of fungi. Come on, mate. He's over there. I'll fill up their water trough. I've always said to Brian that these guys deserve to live out their years here on this farm, because it's where they've had families. They're all related, these sheep. Their mothers, fathers, uncles, nephews, nieces, all that stuff. And that's all good and proper, but what happens when they lose their teeth? How are they gonna get... So I think sheep, they probably only live to about 10. But you know, some of these would be exceeding 10 now. So do you let them starve to death, or do you decide to get someone to come out and execute them? You know, it's a hard call, isn't it? So got to turn pumps on out here. You can't just go and turn a tap on. We had to put some metal on that tree there. You see that metal? That's because Stewie headbangs. Stewie the ram is a headbanger. And when he's bored, he just starts headbanging this big old tree. So I wanted to protect the bark, so we put up some corrugated iron sheets. Hey mate, well, that's what we want. We want the old boy in here. Come on, come on. Bilbo, come on. Come on. Okay, well, that's what we wanted. I don't want all of them in there. Had a lot of rain this week. Had these huge big thunderstorms that flooded parts of Heathcote, but threw it down here. Torrential rain for a couple of days in a row with lightning, thunder. I think it's the tail end of Cyclone Jasper. Hey guys. That's a mum, but she seems to be doing better than the other two. Maybe she's protected her teeth a bit better. A bit of flossing and brushing. But she looks healthier and younger than the other women that arrived. We shipped in the 4 mothers from Beverly Merino. Remember that on our way out to Sutton Grange? The paddocks along there, actually, where he came from, where Stewie came from, that was Beverly Merino. You know, come on, you want to come in, Mum? Come on. In you come on. Okay, they're mothers. They can both have a meal too. I also got them some lucerne. Hey, there's an old lady. Show us your teeth. You got any teeth in there? I doubt you do. You can't get your dentures. Can't afford dentures. But you know, they're not exactly starving, because I got this new bag of smaller pellets. I don't know if you can see them. I don't know if the Osmo is going to pick it up. I'll show you where I got them. I'm going to turn this off. I can't leave. One time I left this pump on and the pressure forced one of the hoses extensions to split. and we lost the whole contents of one of our tanks. And I got told off for that. So anyway, see these? I got these as opposed to these. And they really like these. See them? They really like these, but they're more expensive. And I thought being smaller, they may enjoy these and easier to eat. Well, wouldn't you know it? They don't particularly take to these things. You know, they left them. So they're not exactly starving, are they, if you're leaving the food I'm giving you. And this grain stuff, they don't even like that. So they're a bit spoilt. That's okay. I'll give them a bit of this. But yeah, they love this stuff. But no, that's not all. They get the full pensioners. Morning meal to sustain them through the day. And the other day when I went to IGA, I was looking for a box. I saw out the back they had a box of this lettuce, old lettuce, and a carton of old apples. One of them was a bit discoloured, so they were throwing them out. So I grabbed it. Used to do that a lot. In fact, I used to drive down to Melbourne every Saturday for about at least a year. When I first moved up here, I still remained a member of a home group down in Melbourne, or Dandenong to be more accurate. And there was a big fruit and veg place near where I was living in Noble Park at the time, and they had a big sort of dumpster bin where they'd throw cabbages in. So they cut them into small bits so they can get that into their gob. Yeah, cabbages, lettuce, all sorts of stuff that they were going to throw out. And I'd go and fill up bags. I used to carry bags with me, and sometimes I'd have 6 or 8 bags full of feed in the back seat of the car that I used to give to the woman, Maria. We didn't really have our own animals then. So Maria had goats. She had a cow called Georgie. I think Georgie's still there. I've still seen Georgie. There's a big black cow she had, I think. Or maybe Georgie's gone. Actually, I think I saw Georgie had died about 6 months ago. Anyway, yeah, I used to drop it over to Maria's and feed the animals for her with this stuff I got. And but they're not that keen on, like, I'm going to break up some of this lettuce for them. They're not that keen on it. They're not exactly starving as far as I'm concerned, because they're still quite fussy. See, you like this? See, he sort of, some of that. He sort of takes it, but he spits it out. You old people are real fussy, aren't you? You can't please old people. I'll show you what they do really like. Here's bread. Bilbo would survive on bread if he could. I've got some bread here too. I don't really know how good it is for them. But, you know, get to an old age when you've got no teeth, I think you can let yourself go a bit with what's good for you. Well, there should be nothing wrong for sheep with a bit of bread. But yeah, they love it. Don't you, mate? You love your bread. That face. Little face. She's got like a black mark on her lip there, which could be cancer. We lost old Bilbo. Sorry, not Bilbo, Babs. Babs was a big wether. He's a real friendly guy, he was. He was sort of one of the first sheep when I got here. Yeah, he was the first sheep we got, and he was hellishly friendly. Gorgeous big wether. And he got a cancer on his lip. So eventually, like, went out there one time and he was just covered in flies. And, you know, there's nothing you could do. We talked to the vet. They said it'll probably, the ulcer will probably sort of stagnate during winter, but in summer it'll come back bigger and worse than before. That's exactly what happened in summer. The cancer started growing again on his mouth. And I went out there one time and he's just covered with flies all over this ulcer on his mouth. So I called Peter Rabbit. And we had to put an end to poor old Babs. Big, lovable sheep he was. So this is Lucerne. You can see how much green's in here. Once again, I need to break it up a bit for them. Yeah, see, they're going for it straight away. Here we go. Yeah, should have brought my secateurs with me. So what happens is I'll feed them and leave them for about an hour or more. They're incredibly slow when they eat this stuff, like typical old people. Okay. The Lucerne costs about, I'll give this to the others, I think it's about 25 a bale of Lucerne, I think. There we go. Hey guys, some for you, some for you. Now hold on, you lot. Uh-oh. No, Mum. Right. Doesn't look like a lot, does it? Well, I don't think they're going to eat it anyway. See what happens. Come on, mate. Come on. There you go. Eat that. Mum, you had that. Of course, they'll push each other out of the way to get what the other has. Even though they've each got... There you go. Have that. Okay. No, Mum. That's his. Mum. Come on. No, Mum. Come on. That's his. Hey, hey, hey. Bilbo. There you go, mate. Come on. There you go. There you go, mate. You have that. As I said. Alright, so we'll leave them alone. I might go to the market this morning. I'll take the Osmo to the market. Okay, so that's the old people sorted for the moment. There is another mother that probably wanted in on that, but she'll be alright for today. She can catch up tomorrow.